Hey everyone, welcome back to Learn with Avinash Darvi. In the last episode, we have walked through about how to host a Mautic on AWS Fargate using AWS Console. So we'll take one step further. In this video, we are going to talk about how to host a Mautic using the AWS Fargate but using AWS CloudFormation. And this enables you to automate your process. And along with that, we will also try to see that how do we host your MySQL using the ECS task so that you can save the cost further. So let's dive into the demo. So let's walk through the demo. This is the same repository which we have seen in our previous video, but this will have some additional functionality to support the cloud formations, like YML file will be there. So I have created a separate YML for the Mautic ECS one, so which will be enable us to create the ECS tasks for the Mautic and ECS task for the MySQL. So let's look at that. But before that, let me dive into the Docker file, because if you can use the MySQL database, which is the Docker official image, you will not have a by default a Mautic database created there and the username which you desire to be used. For that one, we need to make some changes. So for this, I have created the init.sql file, which include the created database if does not exist, which will be a Mautic. So it will create a new Mautic database inside the MySQL image. Drop the user if it exists for the Mautic one, and create a new user and which identify by the Mautic password. Then alter the Mautic that user, which will be Mautic native password, by the Mautic underscore password. So this is not recommended to use this is simple password. Keep your secure password. I just for demo purpose I have used the normal password, and then grant all privilege on the Mautic dot star to Mautic @ one, and then you can do the flush privilege. So this is the SQL which is actually going to be run inside the MySQL Docker image. So I have created a Docker file for MySQL here. You can take a look into that. From command is MySQL. This is official Docker image from the MySQL will be 8.0, and then we are copying the init.sql inside our Docker entry point -initdb.d. So whenever we are going to build a Docker image, automatically that will be embedded inside that. Nothing to do with the great things like simple Docker build command. You can do it, and then like this Docker build -t the MySQL, or you can use whatever name will be there. I have used the Mautic -mysql dot, and then given a -f as a command to file the Docker file .mysql and build the specific Docker image. Once I build that, I have pushed with the same step of Docker tag. So you can go back to the Elastic Container Registry here and open the Mautic one. You can find out the view push command. Same thing what I have done, I have created a separate repository for Mautic -mysql. The same what we have done earlier for the Mautic one also. So in the Mautic repository, we are not going to change anything. The same repository will keep it to the previous one, but this is additional for that one. You can go back to your view push command and follow the same state. Make sure you have a CLI installed, local, and then run this command to log in successfully, and then you can build and tag the MySQL with the MySQL latest one and Docker push. Then you are ready to use your Docker image. So that's about this part. Now let's go back to our repository. So now we have explained how we are going to use the MySQL Docker image. Now we will look into that. Let's explain and walk through how the CloudFormation will look like. So this is a Mautic ECS CloudFormation YML file. This has a generalized statement. So we'll have parameters which will be defined, which will be runtime basis, because I would like to use a default VPC, but I don't want to do hard code that value. So what I will do, I will select a default VPC value and I will ask you to choose while running the CloudFormation. You will get to know that while running the CloudFormation, how exactly it's getting selected. But if you have already created a VPC endpoint, separate private VPC, not a default one, make sure you can use that here also, and you can make a parameterize also. Then we'll start creating the resources. First resource I would like to give that is the ECS task execution. You might have seen in the previous video we have used the ECS task execution role, which was connected into the IAM role. But here, since we are doing the CloudFormation, we wanted to everything automate from the all the component creation. So we'll keep it that role creation. The type will be IAM role and the property will be assume role policy. We'll attach a two policy which I was saying earlier, which will be Amazon ECS task execution policy and CloudWatch full access. Why do we require CloudWatch full access? Because we are going to dump our container log inside a CloudWatch. For that one, we will require this access. And then we'll name it as a Mautic ECS task execution rail. We will use it in next further step. Then Mautic security group. Mautic security group is a property which will have the default VPC and the port from the 80 and outside will be a 000. This will burn out the outbound calls. And then a MySQL security group will be like a security group and the default will. This will enable the two different port. One will be 3306 TCP protocol, because here we are going to enable the network load balancer for the MySQL, because MySQL support 3306, which doesn't come under the application load balancer, because application load balancer allowed only 80 and 443 port. So for that we are going to use the network load balancer. To this one we will walk through later. And then source security I will be a Mautic security group. So whichever Mautic security group will be there, we will attach to that, so that Mautic instance can access that MySQL entry point. And then along with that we'll add the IP protocol with our default VPC CIDR block. Make sure whatever CI VPC you are going to use it, whatever the CIDR range will be there, you have to use it. You can parameterize this also. I have to use the default values here so that you can access properly. Then we will have a MySQL target group for the load balancer, and we'll have a 3306 protocol will be TCP, IP, and this will be there. And MySQL load balancer and will attach to that specific internet facing one, because we wanted to access to our ECS task container, so that we should be able to use it. Then we'll have a listener attached to it. The listener will be same like 3306, because here is a network protocol and MySQL allowed 3306, so we will use that. Target group will be our MySQL target group, is a parameterized, which we mentioned earlier, and the ARM will be a MySQL load balancer. Then we'll talk about creating the cluster. Here we'll create a Mautic cluster. The name called Mautic cluster will be there, name, and the Mautic task definition. After creation of cluster, we will have a task definition. We'll give a family Mautic YT video like that, and you can give it whatever the name you are suggesting that for that one. Later we will give the load ARNs for this one. This is the one which we have created earlier. We'll keep it both in the execution rule and task ARN, same variables here. The network mode will be VPC1, and our required compatibility Fargate, not the EC2. So we'll keep it a Fargate as the execution policy. CPU default 1024 and 3072. You can use it whatever it's selected for you. Memory reservation will be 1024 and 1072 is the memory. CPU will be 1024. And here we are going to select that same Mautic ECR repository URL, that is a copy URL, which from the previous one, we will keep it here. Environment variable will pass it as the Mautic database as a load balancer DNS name. Here we are not going to use the local host, because we wanted to use a dynamic load balancer URL, so that we should be able to access it rightly. Then the same Mautic password, DB name, Mautic will be there, and the trusted proxy and Mautic user will be there. And here we are going to enable the AWS log, so that we can dump our log container log inside the CloudWatch. For that only we have enabled the execution policy. Then we'll talk about the MySQL task definition. Here we'll use the MySQL task in a similar ACS execution part, but here we are going to use a Mautic MySQL image which we have created. I am referencing this URL because it's a stable one. The latest was not stable, having some problem, but whichever the stable one and have the issue resolved, make sure you use that reference in the image part. And the MySQL root password will be Mautic_password, because it's required to have a root password there. Make sure you use a secure password. You can parameterize this also if you wanted to. Then we're going to create a MySQL service. We'll attach to the MySQL task definition. Launch type will be Fargate, and the container will be MySQL, and 3GH report will be there, and target group from the load balancer will attach it. We'll attach a default subnet which we have earlier selected the top as a parameterized one, security group we will attach the same one and enables, and that depend upon the MySQL listener. Why we said the depend upon, right? Until only the MySQL listener is getting enabled and the load balancer is enabled, we will not execute MySQL services, because that's a mandatory requirement for our to have the Mautic service task definition. We need that load balancer ARN there. Then the MySQL Mautic service will be created. Same with the Mautic task definition, Fargate type will be there, security group and default image, and here also we'll keep it depend upon MySQL. So to keep the sequence after this creation only, let's create the same one. So we need to have the MySQL service will be created first and then Mautic service. So depend upon that, and it's a good practice to ensure all dependency are resolved. Then we'll have output parameters, like all the output parameter can be there, or cluster ARN, definition, Mautic service, load balancer DNS, which we are actually using there under the task definition. We look at the task definitions right here, we are using here the one, those are the output parameter we are going to use it. So if you want more parameter, feel free to use that parameters, and that's about this CloudFormation explanation. Now let's do the execution of this CloudFormation. So I will go back to the CloudFormation, go to the create stack, create resource bin, and I will select the choose existing template. Select on the Amazon S3 bucket. We will upload a template here. I will choose a file from here. The file is already there, so we will use it. Let me see if it's updated with the latest or not. Let's take a dump of latest from the GitHub so that we will make sure that our data is up to date. Yeah, so I have just now updated the CloudFormation, so I will go back to the CloudFormation and close this, select the latest one, and then we will upload it. Once it's upload done, we'll click on the next button. We will give a Mautic-ECR stack name, and this is the parameter which we defined into the CloudFormation. Then the top right, that's why we are getting this option to select the subnet. So I will select all the subnet to make sure the good availability and select the default VPC. Make a note of this, we have used these CIDR range into CloudFormation. The same, whatever the private VPC you are going to use it, you can use it. Then I click on next. Here don't need to do anything, so we'll just go back to here, click acknowledge that AWS CloudFormation might create IAM resource. Yes, we are going to create the ECS role into that, which is required to execute the ECS policy. So for that, we have to acknowledge this one. Then click on the next. Let's get review quickly and hit the submit button. So once the submit button hits, let's hold tight because it will going to take a couple of minutes. So let's get refreshing this part, and you can see the progress here. Target group, security group, execution roles are in started progressing. Whichever is completed, you can always go back and check out that. So let's look at the cluster side, if any clusters are created here or not. So this one, yes, the Mautic cluster is created here. The service is yet to create. Same thing we can track here. So let's keep track on this. So it will take couple of minutes, so hold tight. And let's refresh this. Yes, we are able to complete the whole infrastructure setup. You can see that all the event logs, Mautic ECS cluster, MySQL service, Mautic service has been created, your task definition has been created, your listener is ready. So let's look into that, the cluster side, and just refresh these services and see that yes, Mautic service and MySQL services both are running with the one task completed. So let's check, make sure that our security group is properly have that rules. So I will just open the MySQL security group. Yes, it is attached to the same CDR and same There's the group of Mautic one. So yes, it is there. So let's check out our definition of task. Definition of the Mautic video is coming the same Mautic. Yes, it is connected to the load balancer. Now it's time to check out our Mautic service. Go to the task. Oops. Go to task here. Open it and open the address here. In meanwhile, just go back to service, check the log. You can find out the Mautic server's container logs here. So that way you can always check out and see there's no error so far, and you can see here the Mautic installation page. So hip hip hooray. So let's try it out next steps here. So already the load balancer is there. I'll give a port number, database name Mautic, and I will give the Mautic underscore password, and I'll see backup is no. Then next, it will create the Mautic instance within a second. So fast. Superb. Now let's go back to admin and give admin password. Mautic 123. I'll give Avinash, last name Darby, Avinash, @meta.com. So it is ready, and we are going to log in to the admin. So password is and with this one, our Mautic dashboard is ready to use. You can see all the settings here, all the applications are able to access it, and we are done with this video. And that's wrap up about these sessions. In these sessions, you have learned about how to deploy Mautic on AWS Fargate using the AWS CloudFormation. Along with that, hosting your MySQL database within a same ECS cluster. And this helps to enable the reducing your cost. And also, you have learned about how to manage the container within the same ECS cluster. So, if you have any questions or any comment, give it in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. So, see you in the next video.